Hello, and welcome to our next episode of What's on the Horizon. I'm Lori Sharenbrock, and I am here with Chris Schucker of Digital Horizons. And today's topic is designing a network. That
Mhm.
might sound like a foreign language to some
Right.
people, but what really is that, and what goes into it?
So the network or Wi-Fi, things like that people
Yes.
probably more commonly know it as, is the backbone of the communication of the home. A network takes on many different shapes and sizes based on what we're doing or if we're not involved. It can be something as simple as just Wi-Fi in a home, regardless of the size or shape of the house. But as we get into more complex stuff like home automation and doing video surveillance and literally everything that we're involved in a home, the network is so critical,
Yeah.
so super important. And so we design things a little bit different because of that. And we have basically the same concepts regardless of how complex the system is. It just tends to scale up,
Sure.
both based on the complexity of the system, but then also the size of the home, the shape of the home, how the home is built. A lot of things change based on those factors. But generally speaking, when you think of a network in a home, a lot of people will just have their service provider's equipment, a modem, or if you have CTC or somebody like that, they have an interface box that converts fiber to something the networking
Okay.
equipment can understand. And then from there, most commonly, people just have what's referred to as a wireless router.
Yes.
It's kind of an all-in-one. Think of it as like the toaster oven for the kitchen. It's not really good at any particular thing, and it's just kind of good at a lot of different
Yeah.
things. So it performs routing functions, which allows your device to be assigned a place on the network and to make sure the traffic flows from your device to the modem or between devices on the network. Think of it as the device that he's the router is the postmaster for your network. It's the one that hands out your physical FHIR address to all the devices on the network and kind of also acts as the police officer at the intersection routing
Sure.
traffic. And then it's combined with something called a wireless access point or WAP. And that device provides the connection wirelessly for your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your printers, whatever, to connect to the router and then have the traffic routed. The problem with doing that in most homes is because they're an all-in-one, they just kind of fall short of being really good at what they do.
Yep.
But then they are also it's one point of connection, and if it's not in a centralized location in your home, or your home is big enough beyond a certain point, they often just they're not enough.
Yeah.
So you could have your wireless router along with the modem, maybe in your mechanical room, and maybe your mechanical room centralized in your home. But if you're up in a bedroom and a second floor, and your home is, I mean, even 2,500 or 3,000 square foot homes, you can have your devices centralized to be up in a bedroom, and your wireless signal is terrible. Some people will augment them with repeaters, and that's a topic for a whole nother discussion, but that shouldn't be done for a lot of reasons. So how we handle things differently is we provide separate devices that are good at what they do, not all in one units. So instead of a combination wireless router, we provide just a router. We provide wireless access points, and then quantities of wireless access points according to the size of the home, how the home is built. Because when a home is built out of sticks and sheetrock, it's a lot easier to handle a wireless network versus, say, something that has lath and plaster, or might have concrete walls, or
Yes.
might have, any other, any surface in a wall is going to, attenuate your wireless signal and cause reductions in performance. So we use wireless access points that have come in many different shapes and sizes. Oftentimes they're a ceiling mounted version. Sometimes they have access points that just mount over a wall plate, like where you might have a TV jack or something like
Sure.
that. And we generally use one access point per 1,000 to 1,500 square feet of a home.
Okay.
So if you have a 3,000 square foot home, you should have at least 2, maybe even 3 access points, depending on the size of your home. The benefit of doing that is now your wireless only device is directly connecting to the network. It's not going through a repeater. And then the connection that it has to make is going through fewer surfaces, fewer walls, and sometimes it's making a direct connection being in the same room, which is ideal, of course. And so once the wireless access points get the signal, it goes back to the router. And there might be something called a network switch in between, because when you get to a certain point on your network, you have so many physical connections that the router can't do its job. So sometimes there's a switch in between, which you can think of as your splitter for your Ethernet connections. And then it ends up at the router, and because it's a dedicated router, it's really good at what it does. It has excellent bandwidth throughput. It can handle lots and lots of devices, and it usually has advanced features and characteristics. And then the last thing that we do with our networks is we use basically business class, enterprise grade networking equipment in every project that we do. So we're not using off the shelf, there's no consumer brands, so to say, that are in use here. It's very heavy duty. It's over engineered for its use. And what that means is it lasts longer. There's better support from the manufacturers. They provide us training and things like that allow us to do things better for our customers. And it just works better. So those three things together, designing things properly, using devices that are focused on their individual tasks, and then using higher quality components, lead to just superior networks overall. We found that's the right equation for really any size project that we're involved in, whether it's a 2,000 square foot home remodel to 10, 12, 15,000 square foot custom homes. It just scales up based on, the various factors of each project.
And kind of going back to something you said earlier, do the building materials matter with the kind of equipment and the design that you use? Like my in-laws live in a house that is, it feels like a fortress. We don't get signal for anything inside there. And I know that they used a do-it-yourself kind of solution in there too. So, I'm guessing that it's better to work with a builder up front to know what you're going to do with that.
Yeah, it definitely can matter. And every project's different.
Sure.
I'm in conversations with a client who's building a home that has a lot of precast concrete involved. Okay. Some of the floors and whatnot are concrete, and some of the interior walls are concrete. And we just scale up the amount of access points and place more of them throughout the home than we might otherwise. I think we ended up with not quite double the amount that we would normally have in a home that size, but pretty close. Sure. And then I think we've wired for a few extras just in case. So the materials definitely matter, and we just have to know as much as possible up front to accommodate for it.
And how would someone recognize that their network is not working for them?
Well, aside from hardware failures,
sure.
Which unfortunately can be intermittent and hard to diagnose, it would just be not getting close to the speeds that you're paying for.
Sure.
Which, unfortunately, there are some things that are out of the control because the service provider is not doing their part. But generally speaking, if you have, let's say you're paying for 200 meg and you're getting 20 to 50 over your wireless, when you're further away, and then it's better when you're closer, or maybe you're getting nothing at all when you're further away, that's obviously a telltale sign. Sure. The most basic thing that you can do is to do speed tests in various parts in your home. There's apps that you can download for that. There's websites you can go to via the browser on your mobile device and go to areas where you think the signal is weak and do a speed test, maybe even a couple of them to have some supporting evidence, and then go closer or do various things throughout the house and do these tests. Maybe if you have a set of floor plans or something, you can mark down what your results were in each of these areas, and then evaluate what the results are. And there's lots of things that can be done. When we get involved in a project, especially in an existing home, we have hardware referred to as a spectrum analyzer that will actually sniff out the wireless signals in the area, not only for the network that we're either looking to help or to replace, but then also look at what's in the area. If you have lots of neighbors, or maybe you have a neighbor that has a really strong wireless network, there's, getting a little technical here, but there's when you have Wi-Fi, it operates very similarly to how FM radio does, just at a different frequency.
Okay.
So if you have competing channels both transmitting on 88.3, you're either going to hear neither of them, or you're just going to get static or some sort of mix of both. And that can happen on Wi-Fi too. There's actually, I believe it's 15 or 16 channels of Wi-Fi that exist. Actually, it might only be 11. There's other people that are smarter than me here that handle that stuff. And if the access points either on your network or your neighbor's network are on the same channel as yours, it can cause interference. So we have the ability to look at all of the wireless networks that are present from or around the home. And then when we install our network, we make sure that the channels that we're using, both completely or individually on each access point, are on separate channels to help eliminate that potential interference.
Yeah, I think that, people just think, oh, there's something wrong with my Wi-Fi when it really could just be an interference
Yeah,
like that.
there's so many things that can interfere with networking and whatnot working. So we'll get a call from a client and I'm having trouble with a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, there's like 12 things that we can have somebody check to verify where it is, because completely aside from your home, once the signal leaves your house, it has to go to your service provider. It has to go between your service provider and wherever the call is being hosted from. And those things that it has to go through are called hops. And you can have problems in any of those 15 or 20 hops between the service provider and this where the Zoom call is and back that are completely out of your control and out of your service provider's control. It's less likely because that's pretty critical infrastructure and that stuff gets handled, but you could have 7 or 8 points of contact from your wireless device in your home to even before it gets to the service provider. So there's things that can be done to kind of snoop some of that stuff out, and it usually doesn't come to something as technical as that. But it's often very difficult to narrow down a problem, and so we have 3 or 4 troubleshooting things that we do pretty quickly to diagnose it in a home. But sometimes it's hard.
So if someone wanted you to bring your spectrum analyzer and your Star Trek time
Sounds like
hoppy,
Ghostbusters something.
yeah. As soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, that's like a Star Trek thing, right?
Yep.
If someone wanted to have you do an analysis like that and help them get better at their network, what's the first step to take?
Just call us. Give us a call at 218-330-4140, or you can visit our website at digitalhorizonsmn.com.
Awesome. Well, that I learned probably more than I ever thought I would in there. That was all really good information and really easy to understand.
They can just call you now. Right?
They could. No. I would like to talk Star Trek with them, which would be fine, but not spectrum analyzers. But thank you so much for that. And tune in for our next episode.